Looking right at what you see now, do you want to take a solemn guess at what we have again here before you today in this video? These are the very authentic IDs of the paintings of the very people in the story of the good book, the Bible. Only a year ago, the global community ran agog with the buzzing news of certain posters, said to have been found in some secret vault which, it was said, had at last been opened to the world by the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. And, in these posters, were found Black biblical Israelites and icons. For centuries, Western art has portrayed biblical figures as white Europeans, but ancient icons and artifacts stored in Russia's vault reveal a startling truth. Many biblical icons were, in fact, black. There are a whole load of them, hundreds and thousands of iconic paintings, some with familiar names that we know of in the scriptures, while there are also many others with names we do not even know, nor have we ever heard of. But the remarkable thing is, the saints in these paintings are all blacks. They are, and have always been, black people. By these revelations, it is finished. No more doubts on the identity of blacks in the world's biblical history any longer. Would you like to know why? Because these paintings are all Byzantine artwork. Now, let's get you enlightened on why you must take any art called Byzantine very seriously. If you've witnessed the enticing classic ornaments and decorations in Christian churches around the world, those are perhaps the legacy of Byzantine art. Cities like Ravenna, Italy, Kiev, Ukraine, or Novgorod and Moscow, Russia, are the epicenters of artworks that were produced during the Byzantine era. Artworks that had significant influence on Christianity. But what is Byzantine art, and what are its distinctive features? First off, the arts of the Byzantine era correspond to the dates of the empire, which spanned more than a millennium. The Byzantine Empire was the Eastern Roman Empire under Christian rule that thrived in the Middle Ages, from 330 AD until the fall of Rome, when the capital Constantinople, present-day Istanbul, fell to the Ottoman Turks in 1453. This Eastern Roman Empire, unlike the western half that was ruled from Rome, was a peaceful region that maintained religious, secular, and artistic values. Thousands of painters and craftsmen went to Byzantium to get away from the barbarian Dark Ages in Rome back then. These artists created Byzantine art as the new style of Eastern Christian images and icons, which ultimately flourished into Orthodox Christianity. Because Byzantine art spans over a significant amount of time, it can be divided into three periods: Early Byzantine, 330 to 750, Middle Byzantine, 850 to 1204, and Late Byzantine, 1261 to 1453. Generally, the characteristics of Byzantine art were almost completely in tune with the religious realm, particularly about the transcendence of the Orthodox Church under the Byzantine Empire into artistic forms. Similar to the way of Greek predecessors, Byzantine art has never forgotten its cultural roots and heritage, which originated in Greek culture after being Christianized from the Eastern Roman Empire. This is why artworks from this era continue to resemble their origins. So, just know this. Any old painting you are told is originally Byzantine reflects the exact image of what has been painted, because, in Byzantine art, there are no alterations. It is an artistic preservation of history, just the way that history is. This isn't the first time, however, that these icons would surface in the public eye. The first time they were displayed by the Russian Federation was no less than 15 years ago in Moscow.
Icons dating back to the 14th century brought together from private collections across Russia.
It's very beautiful. It gives you goose pimples. It's a remarkable exhibition.
It's an exhibition which feeds the senses. Everything is so grey outside at the moment, and here suddenly it's a feast for the eyes.
And it's a feast that marks 100 years since religious icons started to be recognised as works of art. Before then, they were mainly viewed as religious objects, often left blackened over the centuries by the passage of time and added layers of paint.
When
we learned how to remove the dark layers, we discovered...
And just wait there a minute, viewers. Did you hear that? Let's go at it again for a second, shall we?
When we learned how to remove the dark layers, we discovered...
Did you hear that again now? When we learned how to remove the dark layers, the lady just said. For those of you who might not have heard the first rewind clearly, let's go over this again for the final time.
When we learned how to remove the dark layers, we discovered...
Yes, that's the part. The images were whitewashed, and then the other old paintings were hidden in vaults all over Europe and Russia.
When we learned how to remove the dark layers, we discovered an overwhelming beauty, to such an extent that it shocked André Matisse, who was in Moscow at the time. He said, "It's here that artists should come to learn to paint, not to Italy."
But today, only a small number of these masterpieces remain. Most were destroyed during the Soviet era.
These icons are the survivors. If museums hadn't saved them, they wouldn't exist today. There are 50,000 icons in Russian museums. Before, there were millions.
As we can well hear, there used to be millions of these icons back in the days. But today, only a small number of these masterpieces remain, as most were destroyed during the Soviet era. The icons you see here are the survivors of what's left, and they are no more than 50,000 icons. If museums hadn't saved them, they wouldn't exist today.
But now the future of this part of Russian heritage is up for debate. Are the icons best held by museums, or should they be returned to the country's churches?
The second time some of these icons were displayed would be 13 years ago, in Rome, where an exhibition of 40 Russian icons, ancient pieces of art, ranging from the 15th to the 20th century, which were once hidden after the October Revolution of 1917, left the Federation for the first time. These sacred pieces have been preserved from the anti-religious destruction at the time.
The Castel Sant'Angelo in Rome is currently hosting an exhibition of 40 Russian icons that have left their country for the first time. They are pieces of art that were hidden after the October Revolution of 1917 in order to protect them from anti-religious destruction.
It's the first time that a large number of Russian icons have come here to Italy. In addition, here are a dozen examples that have never before been moved. They appear for the first time in our catalog.
Icons are usually painted on wood and meant to represent saints or sacred elements. The Orthodox tradition considers them as if they were the gospel, inspirations of God through the hand of the artist. Their deep symbolism is reflected from the meaning of icon as a representation or vision from another world. The wood evokes the Holy Cross through its gold background, divine light, and the cloth attached to the wood evokes the cloth that covered the body of Jesus Christ.
Without a doubt, they have a great importance and a fundamental recognition in Russia, because the icons represent for Russia what the pyramids represent for Egypt, or the temples to the Greeks.
The exhibition shows icons ranging from the 15th century until the early 20th century. It's a rare opportunity to see the religious soul of Russia through its ancient icons.
Only these icons were not as much as the vast varieties, which were found in the century-old secret vault that was opened to the world over a year ago by the President of the Russian Federation, while the Ukraine and Russia war dragged on.
As the Ukraine-Russia war drags on, Russian President Vladimir Putin has decided to move one of Russia's holiest icons from a museum to a Moscow cathedral. This arises a debate around Putin's growing reliance on the church.
Emphasizing on the importance of the holy icon, Putin ordered Andrei Rublev's Trinity be transferred to the Russian Orthodox Church from Moscow's Tretyakov Gallery for a year. The relocation of Russia's most well-known icon highlights how closely the war has intertwined politics and religion. Trinity is a 15th century artwork which is all set to take its place in the Cathedral of Christ the Saviour. The icon depicts the Oak of Mamre, where the three angels visited Abraham in the book of Genesis.
This act by Vladimir Putin caused quite a big stir at the time of the event, as it had happened in the heat of the Russia-Ukraine war. The researchers of the Russian Orthodox Church had argued at the time that the revelation of these black icons was a political move by the president of the Russian Federation.
The researchers of the Russian Orthodox Church are arguing that this transfer of icons is a political move on behalf of Putin. He wants to keep the church on his side in this war by showing his respect to the religious institution. The West claims that Putin is framing the war as a battle for the survival of Russia, to which the researchers further demand that he needs to prove that the war is not his personal military activity, but that there is a higher metaphysical mission in Russia that he is trying to fulfill. In the past, several Russian propagandists have used Christian symbolism about fighting the devil. They have even used Antichrist symbols to rally support for a war that has gone on much longer than the expectations. The West says that it just wants to help Ukraine defeat Russia on the battlefield.
Despite all said and done, the solemn truth remains that the question of whether the act of revealing these black icons was some political move or not for President Putin doesn't matter, or compare to the nobility, humanity, and honesty of the act behind the unveiling in essence. There is the undeniable, fulfilling elation one always gets to feel at the news of such long-hidden truth, unearthed, at long last. The images of Jesus and other historical figures in Russia's black icons challenge the commonly known perception of antiquity and reveal the extent of black people's presence and influence throughout history. Going forward, the unveiling of these old icons didn't stop at the opening of the vault only. Paintings from the 1500s and 1600s depicting black icons, including Jesus and the Mother, Mary, the prophets, and even Abraham, in a highly sought-after book that explores the history of black people in Russia, Italy, and other parts of Europe also surfaced. The book contains interesting depictions of black people in biblical scenes, which is knowledge that is not taught in the American educational system. Let's have a look.
This is Russian Icons by Father Vladimir Ivanov. I hope I didn't butcher that name, but this is a book that is highly coveted by different circles. Because it has the black icons, it has the history of black people in places like Russia, in Italy, in places all over Europe. This book can range from $1,300 to $3,000, so it's not an easy book to get. I actually borrowed this book from a friend, But this book has a lot of interesting depictions in it. A lot of them pertaining to the Bible. Like right here, this is the Transfiguration of Christ. And you see it's black people in caves, I believe, what it looks like. It's black people in the whole picture, but this is knowledge that escapes black people here in America. It's definitely something that we would never see or never hear about in the educational system. Now, I'm pretty sure there's people that are black history college students majoring in black history or world history, and they never seen nothing like this before. At least not from the standpoint of Europe,
These are the very authentic IDs of the paintings of the very people in the story of the good book, the Bible. including the most popular of the biblical characters today in this world of mankind, Jesus. And as for the name Jesus, do you know that the said name happens to be only a transliteration of his original name, Yeshua? Which even makes one never stop to wonder what the changing of people's names, blacks to be precise, actually means to the white racist. However, let's not veer from the course of the subject in hand. The truth of the matter is, it is no longer news that virtually the entire character in the good book have all been confirmed black.
This is the crucifixion of Christ, and in it we see angels, black angels. The people surrounding him are black. It's very interesting because the images that we see are contrary to what we have known our whole lives, or what we have been taught our whole lives. You know, like I'll say it again, like these type of images of antiquity escape black people here in America, and I can say all people, for in general, just people in general don't know. I'm pretty sure there's plenty of Caucasian people and people of all nationalities that don't know the extent that black people covered the earth. And in many cases, like here, like what you see, we're in rulership positions. Like this looks like a king flanked on each side by his different priests, his wife looks like, and different high priests. I don't know what king it is.
It is, of course, some solid fact that most people do not know until date the extent to which black people lived in the past, and even ruled in their time. This is due to the whitewashing stereotypes which had begun taking place since the time of the Renaissance.
This is an image of John the Baptist. This is an image of Elijah. And around him is scenes from his life. Kind of like a movie, which is a pretty neat way to do a painting. This is another saint. I don't know who it is. There you have another saint. As the book, as you get closer to the end, the icons start to lighten up.
You can well see that the images begin to lighten afterwards at the ending. This clearly depicts the gradual change caused by the whitewashing evil of falsehood that followed afterwards and altered things that were. The unveiling of these icons is a powerful testament to the enduring strength of truth. The authenticity of these paintings compels us to re-evaluate our understanding of the past, particularly regarding the presence and representation of black figures. For centuries, these figures may have been shrouded in obscurity, but their rediscovery sheds light on previously untold stories, standing as a challenge to long-held assumptions, prompting us to rewrite history with a more inclusive lens. Many Russian icons were destroyed or sold abroad by agents of the Soviet government. Some were hidden to avoid destruction or were smuggled out of the country. Since the fall of communism, a number of icon painting studios have again reopened and are painting in a variety of styles for the local and international market. Many older hidden icons have also been retrieved from hiding or brought back from overseas. In closing, these discoveries shatter the myth of a white biblical narrative, confirming the diversity of ancient civilizations. As we unearth the hidden treasures of Russia's secret vault, we are reminded that history is not always what it seems. The revelation of black biblical icons challenges our assumptions and shakes the foundations of traditional narratives. We are forced to confront the reality that our understanding of the Bible and its characters has been filtered through a lens of Eurocentrism. But today, we reclaim black heritage. We rediscover the rich cultural tapestry of the ancient world, where Africa and Asia played pivotal roles in shaping our shared human story. The black biblical icons in Russia's secret vault are more than just artifacts. They are keys to unlocking a more inclusive and authentic understanding of our faith. They remind us that the message of love, redemption, and salvation knows no racial or ethnic bounds. As we gaze upon the images of Yeshua, Moses, and other biblical figures, we see reflections of ourselves, diverse another, vibrant, and beautiful. We are thus reminded that our stories, our cultures, and our identities matter. This brings us to the end of yet another interesting video segment.